There's a scene in The Matrix where Agent Smith, the main bad guy, captures Morpheus, the main good guy, and Agent Smith sits down like I'm sitting, and he's wearing a black suit like what I'm wearing, and he says something to the effect of, "I'd like to share with you a revelation I've had in my time here. Human beings are parasites. They inhabit an area and they multiply, consuming all the resources around them until they must then move into another area. Human beings are a cancer, a plague on the planet, and we are the cure." So Agent Smith's job is to keep control of the Matrix and to eliminate any threats to the Matrix. And he later tells Morpheus that he can't stand being in this place. He doesn't like his very existence. And that makes sense because he is a machine. He doesn't have a soul or spirit. He's just a mind. He's strictly intellect. And he's there to, but he is a person nonetheless, and his very existence is based upon the existence of the Matrix. This speaks to the power of negativity. Agent Smith has an extremely negative view of humanity, and he sees them as nothing more than parasites who multiply, and he looks at it from a particular worldview, which of course is true. Humans do multiply and consume resources and then move to other places. He sees that aspect, and that's all that he sees them for. He doesn't understand that there are, first of all, counter arguments to what he's saying, like the fact that humans can produce beautiful and amazing things. And he also doesn't understand things on arguments on different dimensions, which is that humans have a lot of capacity to do great and amazing things, and you can see that. On YouTube you can go and type in amazing things people do. I'm sure you'll find some beautiful heroic acts, which happen every day. There's 7.5 billion of us on the planet today, and we only know a fraction of that, and that fraction is actually infinitesimal. The scope of what we know is very limited, and it has a lot to do with what we've seen and how we choose to interpret it. Now, if I can reflect on my time here, like Agent Smith did, I've seen a lot of places that feel like a lot to me, at least. I've been up and down the East Coast of the United States several times. I've been to the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, California. I've driven through Texas. I've seen the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky and the bourbon distilleries. I've seen the Capitol and the White House in Washington, D.C. I stood on top of the World Trade Center, the original Twin Towers, 3 months before 9/11 when I was 8 years old. And in those days, you could actually stand on the roof. You didn't see anything through a glass lookout. You were actually on the roof of the South Tower. That's the one without the needle. I've been to every major city in America that does not start with the D. So I've not been to Dallas. I've not been to Detroit. I've not been to Denver. I've been to Canada. I've been to Sri Lanka. I've been to India. I've been to Argentina. And each of those places that I've seen, I've had someone with me, and I remember who it was. I maybe remember some of the conversations we had. There was a lot of walking involved. We probably saw nature in each of those places, and we had a very, very nice time. I spent yesterday evening in a garage with 2 guys who were helping me fix something in my car, and we spent 2 hours there, just the 3 of us, working on a car door. Well, they did most of the work. I actually just held my phone and shone light on it, and it was a nice experience. And there's so much nice things to experience, and it doesn't even need to be that you go around traveling. It needs to be that you have the propensity within yourself to open yourself up to all the good stuff that's out there. And as soon as you open yourself up to that, that begins to creep into your reality, and eventually it becomes your reality. Imagine a door. If a door is locked and you can't break it, there's absolutely no way to get through. But the second there is a little give, you can push it open a little bit, and you can push open a little bit more. You can push open a little bit more. Then if it closes and it's not locked, you can open it up again and maybe go further than you went before. And that's the way. Being open to good experiences can help you perceive things a lot better, and you don't need to end up like Agent Smith, who's sitting here thinking all this negative stuff about humanity, not seeing any other perspective besides the one that he has, and being profoundly miserable, and of course inflicting misery on people around him. No bad guy in any movie is ever a happy person, and no bad guy in the real world is ever a happy person. They've normally internalized some very deeply negative things, have made that their reality, and then act out in accordance to that reality. So here's to making good experiences, either by yourself or with other people, whether that means traveling to different places in the country or in the world, or if that means just spending time and allowing your thoughts to become more and more beautiful as you open yourself up to more experiences and open yourself up to having a good life. Uh, and I will say as well, and this is my message, unlike Agent Smith's message, uh, whoever you are, wherever you may be, I wish you well along your journey, whatever that may bring for you. There are people around you who can help you, and as far as I'm concerned, for the people that I know, I will do my best. Always just do my best. It's the most I can ask of myself, and I'm one of the many. And I, like everybody else, have very, 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 very limited power. But in numbers, there's a lot of power. And in numbers, when people learn how to understand each other, things change drastically. People often say, be kind, because you don't know what someone else is going through. And I agree with that. I think it's true. But what I think is more important than being kind is being understanding. When you're understanding, you can truly be empathetic. I have a friend who's obese, and he explained to me that after many hours of talking about other things, he explained to me that he had a hard childhood and, rough situations growing up, and he never felt a sense of safety. When he eats, he feels a comfort that he's never felt. So if you're to look at this situation simplistically, without really understanding it, you can just say, oh, this guy's obese, he eats too much, eat less. And while that's true on one level, there's a better solution, which is to understand more deeply where this problem comes from, which is that he's experienced trauma. That's led him to develop this need for comfort, and that's manifested in the form of him eating a lot, repeatedly. So yes, he should eat less. So if we can work on eating less, that'd be good. If we can work on the trauma, that'd be good. That's harder. It's harder to work on a trauma than a simple action like eating less. So when you start to understand, you can actually get to more difficult and better and more effective solutions, because we have a world with a lot of problems, and people want these problems to end. No one actually wants a messed up and dysfunctional world, but in many ways it is messed up and dysfunctional, and in many ways things run very beautifully and smoothly. And if anybody's seeking to learn how to solve problems or make their societies better, I think it's a good idea to take example from some of the great societies that have existed. Always learn from people who've been successful, and then from people who have not been successful, learn what they did also. Learn why they chose to make decisions that were not good, like Captain Smith of the Titanic. He kept on going in his ship. He shouldn't have. What was the thing? Pride. Excessive pride. Excessive self-belief. That led him to make a bad decision. He's a human, just like any of us, operating through human psychology. A lot of us have excessive pride that can make us make bad decisions. Someone only makes a bad decision when they have a personal flaw that's so extreme that overshadows their better senses. That was the case with Captain Smith. Learn from that. See where it affects you in your life, and see where not to do that yourself. Similarly, you can find someone who's been very successful at something. I always use the example of Roger Federer, pro tennis player, best tennis player ever, world number 3 right now at the age of 37, just won his 99th title. He said in 2008 when he was interviewed about how he's been world number 1 for 4.5 years, or 4 years at that point, and no one had been world number 1 consistently for 4 years. He said, I told myself if I ever became number 1, I'd start working harder, and that's exactly what I did. He also said, I always question myself. Even in the best of times, I question myself. So, you have two contrasting people there. You have Captain Smith, who's not necessarily introspective, at least not when it counted, when there are all these people on this boat that he is captaining. Then you have Roger Federer, who is constantly introspective. And at the end of the day, Captain Smith failed, Roger Federer succeeded. Who do you want to be? When you look for the right things, you can find what you need. The world is full of resources, both physical and mental, as far as you're concerned. The only source of good and bad thoughts, a good life or a bad life, is your own self. How much you're able to work with the reality that you actually have. There are a lot of things that I could be unhappy about with a lot of people and with the world as it is today. And there are a lot of things about my own life that I could be unhappy about. And there are a lot of things that I could be happy about. And it's a matter of where do I normally fall. And the stronger I've become as a person, the more mature I've become, the more it has consistently trended towards the positive. And it's not because, and I don't even know if it's a choice. I don't know if I'm choosing to look at things positively. It may be that just through the scope of natural development, these things begin to come naturally. Or maybe it's a choice, I don't know. But I do know that my general baseline is better than what it used to be. And I'm able to spread what I have within myself to people around me, to be supportive to those who need it, and to treat the activities that I do with a lot of care. My tennis is getting better. My focus for everything is getting better, and that has come because I've worked to make myself this way. Now, there's still work to do. I know that I have inadequacies that still need to be addressed and still need to be worked upon, and that's fine. That's all part of the process. This is the growing and learning process. None of us are perfect, and it's on us to understand each other and understand our own selves and work within ourselves and with each other to make everything better. There will always be Agent Smiths and unhappy people of the world. You do not need to make yourself one of them. If you have a severity of negative thoughts that you believe are true, and they may be true, at least in one way, they may be true. Again, with Agent Smith, the specific words he said, they were not untrue. There are more perspectives out there. There are more ways to look at things, and those ways could be a lot better than the negative ones that seem to be so true. You don't need to live confined in a prison of negative thoughts. That destroys all the beauty within you and makes you like a robot, like Agent Smith. And a person is not meant to be a robot. They can work like a robot in certain ways in order to produce what they need to produce, in order to develop repetition and develop discipline, and they need to have some robotic aspects in order to create beauty from the standpoint of discipline, repetition, and so on. But fundamentally, nobody actually is a robot, and no one should want to be a robot. A fundamental question that can be asked to make the world a better place is not, do you understand the world? It's, do you understand yourself? And if you understand yourself and how your mind works, where your thoughts normally fall, how your days are normally structured, how you choose to react to situations, you can then understand why you view the world as you do. And then when you understand why you view the world as you do, you can detach yourself from that view, and then a better way of viewing and a better way of interacting can then come into reality. And that makes the world a better place. We've been at this for, I don't know, as long as the world's been around, or as long as humans have been around, and the world is good in ways and it's bad in other ways. The more people who can question and understand themselves, like Roger Federer, and not like Captain Smith, the more success we'll all have. And the more people who, again, can question themselves, like Roger Federer, and not like Agent Smith, who just believed the first negative thing that he thought and created a whole philosophy about humans about it, the better off we all are. And the person who benefits most from this introspection is the person who does it. Nobody is confined to stay within this negative scope of thoughts and living a hellish life. If we can make life better for ourselves, we can make life better for the world.